I don't agree with it when landlords or companies send everyone a paid application because a lot of people can't afford that extra $45. So I try to wait until I know that it's someone who's going to fit the property and who's the best fit for the property. And so welcome to the Break Free Real Estate Podcast, your daily guide to financial freedom through real estate. I'm your host, Jocelyn Kaufman, and I'm here with David Robinson, my co-host. And today, David and I are going to be talking about how to find good tenants. So I am going to share my process briefly with you guys, just a few minutes of how I find tenants, and then David's going to critique me. Just kidding. So the first thing I do when I have a property for rent is I go through and I try to remember if I've had any other good tenants who applied for a previous property or who have reached out. So I keep a note of all those tenants always. And first things first, before I even have to list it, I offer the opportunity to them. Second thing, then I list the property. I just take photos myself and I list it. I've found that Facebook Marketplace is the best. So now I just listed on Facebook Marketplace because it's easiest to communicate with all the other people through Facebook Messenger, and I don't have to be giving out my phone number and whatnot. So I list it, and then when people reach out and they say, "Hi, is this available?" I say yes, and then I have a list of questions that I ask them right off the top. So I have a list of questions that I ask them, and if their answers don't qualify, if they don't seem like a good tenant from their answers, or if they don't answer, or if they say, "I just want to see the property," then I just move on, because if you're not going to take the time to answer these questions, then I don't want you as a tenant, because that's kind of a big deal. Communication is huge for me. One of my questions is what's your gross monthly income for everyone over the age of 18. If that's not 3 times what I'm renting the property for, then I move on. So I always want to make sure that my tenants have that income. Obviously, later on, I verify that, but I found that everyone I ask those questions to that answer them, they answer them appropriately. I also ask who's going to be living at the property. And so usually I'll get a good idea of, is this going to be a family? Is this going to be friends? Are they going to be living with their girlfriend they've been dating for a month? Are they going to stay together? So I can get kind of a good idea of who's going to be living at the property. I also ask if they have any pets. I like to do this right off the gate. Even if my listing says no pets, I still ask this question, because pet owners like to just disregard that. And so I just ask them straight off the top. And if it's a property I don't want pets in, then I kind of just move on from those tenants. So I have a list of questions, and I'll put those questions that I send in the show notes, so the listeners can use those. And then after they answer, usually the good tenants, you can tell because they'll answer in detail. Other tenants will be like, yes, no, yes, yes, no, and say like things that don't make sense. And then I just move on from them. And then after that, I set up a single show. I set up like 2 showings where I invite everyone if I have a lot of people who are interested. And I have everyone come at a specific time, because time is money. And I think also if you have more people, it's going to make your unit seem more like important. Like more people are going to want to go through with it. So I'll set up a couple times, and then they'll come. And while I'm showing them the property, I know who they are already. Like I have already seen these questions, and I'll kind of get a feel for them. Like how are they dressed? Who are they with? Are they being, I like to say, like annoying. Like I hate when tenants walk in, they're like, well, this carpet is just done wrong, or like they'll start nitpicking things. I'm like, yep, you are not going to be my tenant, because that's the most annoying thing. And then I'll kind of just conversate with them, and then I'll tell all of them, I'll say, if you want this property, message me your email and I'll send you an application. And so everyone who wants the property will take the initiative, send me their email, and I'll send everyone the free application, and then I'll have like one person I really like above everyone else, and I'll send them the paid application where they do a background check, a credit check, all that stuff. There's a ton of free software out there. I use a software called Inigo. But I'll send out the application, and then when that comes back, and I'll let them know ahead of time, I'm sending you the application. It'll be a $45 charge for you if everything looks good on your end, if your credit is, decent, if you if you're not lying about your income, if you don't have a background check you're not explaining to me right now, then we can move forward. So I let them know why I'm sending them a paid application, and then they fill it out, and then they move in, and it's pretty straightforward. But I really think it's important to get to know the person before you're sending. I don't agree with it when landlords or companies send everyone a paid application, because a lot of people can't afford that extra $45. So I try to wait until I know that it's someone who's going to fit the property and who's the best fit for the property. And so I wait and send it to them after I kind of already have a good idea. There's only been like twice when I've had to say, sorry, can't rent to you. And the other thing I'd like to add too is a lot of people get super upset when a tenant has a bad credit score. I don't really care as much about the credit score as I do about their job history and rental income. A lot of people who are renting, especially in areas where housing is affordable, they're renting because they have bad credit. And so give them that opportunity. I report to a credit bureau so they can build their credit just by renting with me. Obviously, if they have a bunch of missed payments and late payments, then I think twice about it. But if they have low credit because of like student loans or, maybe just a bad decision they made 5 years ago, I tend to look past it. That's my personal perspective. But that is one thing that I'm not too picky about. And I just call their work, and I ask their boss how they are as a worker, and if they foresee them staying at the job for a while. And if they say yes and their income meets my needs, then that's usually enough for me. So holy cow, that was a soapbox. David, what do you think?
Well, first off, that was a ton of great information. And so I don't have any real critique. Just one thought that came to my mind is if you are buying a rental property, it's important to do some due diligence on the existing tenants that are there. A red flag could be that you see a property that is advertising that it has great existing rents, right? Maybe in some cases, even above market rents. For me, that's a red flag, because what it is an indication of is that the owner has brought in a tenant that could be a challenging tenant, but they were able to get them to pay a higher rental price because there's issues with that tenant. And it's a strategy that some owners will use to entice potential buyers to say, oh, wow, this has great rental income, when in fact, you're probably buying a problem tenant. So just be aware of that you may want to do a little bit of due diligence if you're buying a property on the tenants that are in place before you move forward on that. And you can
Yeah.
use a lot of the same tools and suggestions that you offered up to do the background check and to dig a little bit deeper into what those rental agreements have in place.
Yeah, and most landlords, not all, but most will have taken an application from that tenant, and if they're trying to sell their house, they should have that and be willing to share it with you. So that's on top of asking for the lease and everything, ask for the application as well, because that will have a lot of good information on it. If they don't have an application, then you can even put that in your purchase contract that the owner has to pay for a background check for both of the tenants. So that's, that's a great point, David. And everyone make sure that they are vetting tenants when they're buying properties and vetting tenants when they own a property and need to rent them. Well, that's it for today. For more daily investing tips and real estate secrets, don't forget to visit breakfreerealestate.com and make sure to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. We will see you tomorrow.